Right, what have I got today? Boosh, right, it's another flashlight. Bearing in mind I'm locked down, this is all I can really do video wise, but I've got quite a few lights to get through anyway. So this is a new one from Sofirn, well, new to me anyway, though it has been out for a period of time. Just before I start this though, I'd like to say that I received this from Sofirn, which is the company that makes this, for free. They contacted me and said words to the effect of, this is right up your street, TrailTrek, so have a look at this and tell us what you think. Give us an honest opinion, and I will give you an honest opinion because I always do. That's the whole point of a review channel. This isn't one of these channels who says, look at this light, wow, super bright, incredible, everything's fine, everything's roses, right, go and buy it, here's a link. I don't do that. I tell you what I think. Okay, so moving on rapidly. This is the Sofirn SC31 Pro. Now before I even start, I'd like to say that one of my favourite headlamps of all time. Is it the best technically? On output, no, but one of the best headlamps is the, if I remember rightly, the SC30. In fact, if you bear with me a few seconds, right, there it is. Right, hang on, sorry, it's the SP40. I'm sorry, I get confused with all these names now. I've got mountains of flashlights, as you can imagine, but I really like this. It was very cheap but very capable, and the head that actually thought about the design, it was fan blinking-tastic. I really like this. Even though this was one of the cheapest headlamps I own, I love it. So I'm hoping that they've done great things with this one. So SC31 Pro, and it's using the sst40 LED rather than like a Cree XPH, the high or the HDs. Not a Cree one this time, it's the sst40. So you're probably thinking, well, what difference does it make? Who cares? Well, you can get quite a good output on this one. They're claiming a max lumens of around 2000 lumens on turbo. Now those are Sofirn's figures, and yes, it is pretty bright. And one of the key aspects of the sst40 LED is it's renowned for allowing you to push further out. So you should get around another 100 feet sort of push out and throw. Whether that's the case or not, I'll be honest, I wasn't really able to see that on this light particularly, but I think that's more to do with the design of the light itself. But we'll go into that. So let's get this open because you're probably sick of hearing me waffling. Come on, TrailTrek, show me the damn light. So let's get this out. So like I say, this is you can get about 2000 lumens on turbo, and it's using an 18650 battery. So anything else in the box there? No, right. Boosh. Oh, hang on. Some instructions. I might even read them. So boosh, get that in the bin. Right, instructions. And I can't be bothered to read them, get rid of that. It's I did notice somewhere in there it says it's Andural, which I'll show you quickly. There's Andural in whatever language that is, Russian or something. So boosh, get rid of that, because I'll explain all these things to you. So what do you actually get in the box? Well, there's the light itself. And then let's open these and see what we get, because I like to show people exactly what you're getting in the package. So there's a number of things in that one. So there's your lanyard. Now the lanyard is supposedly to go through. We'll zoom in a little bit there. As you can see on that section there of the light, you've got a small hole. I like that it's quite sort of wide. It means you're not sort of trying to get a marshmallow into a piggy bank. And we'll zoom out again there. You can actually get this through and loop it through, and then you can put that around your wrist. It doesn't have a cinch, which would have been nice to see. A cinch is where it'll cinch it like that, and you can put it around your wrist and tighten it. But again, I don't really use these things. You're supposed to put them on and stops you dropping the light, or if a ninja attacks you and they can't grab it off you and do a judo throw or whatever they do. But we'll just try it for strength, because I've got to be fair. So there you go, full strength. Ow, that's hurting. You can see how that's full strength, not snapping. That feels pretty solid. Looks decent enough. Nothing's rattling about. That seems to do its job, but not something I use. Couple of O-rings, which is nice to see, and these are just rubber O-rings which go between machined parts. So in regards to machined parts, you have a threaded section here, and you also have a threaded section here, because this central section, this tube, is one part. So the head is one part. Look, you can unscrew that, and it's got the O-ring there, which they have greased. Nice to see, although it's got quite a bit of grease on, so it's attracting a bit of lint and dirt, because I have carried this for more than 2 weeks in my pocket. But you can undo that bit, and there you can see the well, hang on, if we zoom in a little bit there, zoom in, in fact, get it to focus, there you go, we'll zoom in. You can see the threads there, and then the O-ring on the right. Okay, we'll zoom out again there. And the same is true of the bottom. So that's the head section. And then you've got the central tube. And then you've got the bottom section. And in regards to that, this comes with a little protection in. So you'll need to remove that. So if you take this off, and can you see this here? You'll need to remove this. This just breaks the circuit. So in transit, it's not going to turn on by accident. So just throw that away. And then now you can complete the circuit. But again, same down below, you've got an O-ring, which they've greased, and not too much grease on that one, that's fine, and then a threaded section. The clip on this is smaller than I would have liked to have seen. As you can see, that's flashing there, indicating that the light is ready to go. There you go. Okay, so like I say, this clip is smaller than I would have liked to have seen. It's not what I would call a deep carry. It puts me in mind of the old Thor fires. There's my trusty old Thor fire, which I've had for years. Look at the state of it. It's fallen to bits, but I still like it because it just does the job. Still works, look, perfect. But that has one of these clips. Actually, the Thor fire is stronger than this one. This one's quite weak. Now, weak isn't always a bad thing. It means it's easier to get it onto your pockets and things like that, but it can also mean it comes off if it gets knocked. So I would have preferred to have seen a deep carry where this goes right at the top. Like I've got on a few BLFs, I've got like a deep carry which goes right at the top, so nothing protrudes out your pocket. But with this one, you're going to have a protrusion of that much. You're going to have the tail section sticking out, which you could argue is also a good thing because you can grab it and pull like that. But I prefer deep carry like on knives and things like that. So what else do you get? So you've got your O-rings there. We'll stick them to one side. Not interested for the section. Now, thank goodness. Now, I'm not going to do a hooray parade on this video because people are getting sick of that. But Type-C at last. We're moving into the future. There's a bit of fluff in there, actually. Let's just blow that out. There you go. That's out. Just a bit of fluff in. So there's Type-C. It's unidirectional. It doesn't matter whether you put it in that way or that way. Nice to see. We're moving with the times. So you've got Type-A here, which would go into a standard USB port. And then your Type-C. So your charging ports here. Now, as you know, I'm not the biggest fan of these flaps, but I understand, you know, sometimes unless you want to increase the size slightly and have it behind a screwed section, it keeps it nice and slim. And this is a slim light. I mean, look, fits in my hand. Bear in mind I'm 6'4", obviously, but that fits in my hand. I can cover it there. See, in totality. But obviously I'm quite a large male, and that will differ depending on your height. But pretty slimline, like the SP40. That's one of the things with this. It just does the job brilliantly. Yes, the paint's starting to come off, although in regards to that on this one, paint-wise, it's been pretty good. Look, there's a few, I'll get it to focus there, there's a few little scuff marks. You see that one there in the middle? Where else? Let's have a look. I purposefully carried this with the Fireflies in my jeans pocket and went for a 3-mile walk. So they were doing this, like that sort of motion all the time, and the paint didn't come off. I expect it will, though, because this is a Sofirn, and they're not like the jet beams. The paint will not last forever, but it's done pretty good, look. There's no high spots there that I can notice, so it's doing pretty good. But anyway, back to this flap. It's okay. You've got this raised section which you can pull this out, and let's have a look. And it comes out. It's not mega tight, but I think it's enough to give you an okay IPX rating. On the, Sofirn are claiming IPX8. That may be true. I would suggest it may be, especially if this isn't on properly, more like IPX7. But I'm not saying that they're lying on this. What I'm saying is, you need to make sure that that's screwed properly. You need to make sure that that's screwed properly, and you need to make sure that this is seated properly. Otherwise, all these claims go out the window. But that's not Sofirn's fault, is it, when you think about it? But anyway, that seems to do the job. So if it's raining, you should be absolutely fine. I can't imagine water getting in there unless it's, an absolute deluge and Noah and his ark come looking for you to help you. But that it does the job. This bit doesn't come out too much. I didn't have any problems. And the button section I quite like. They've flattened this section, whereas this section is slightly raised. You see, it's not as flat. So what happens is when you pull this out of your pocket in the night, you can't look at it and say, oh, well, I'm in the dark, I'll just press that. Yes, the button's flashing, but if you don't want to look, you can feel, and there's a raised texture to the button. In fact, let's zoom in on the button there. So you can see it's got like I would have preferred to have seen it a little bit more recessed to prevent it going on, but I haven't had any problems. So we'll zoom out again. I've had no problems. I prefer a recessed button, but it hasn't been, and this does have E-lockout, so you can, that's going on and off, but if I 1, 2, 3, 4, you've got E-lockout, that isn't going to work, although it does have a secondary mode, but we'll discuss that when I go into the UI. So 1, 2, 3, 4, there you go, back to normal. Okay. So let's discuss some more of the specifications of this, because I don't want this review going on too long, and then I'll show you some of the charging with this cable. So like I say, 2000 max lumens on turbo, not the high setting within this UI. It's an 18650, and I'll show you, they do provide you with a cell with this, which is lovely to see. Let's see what the capacity and stats are on this. So lithium ion, nominal voltage 3.7 there. It's an 18650. It's one of their, well, it's their wrap. I don't know who makes the actual cell for them, but it is a perfectly acceptable 3000 milliamp hours, the same as a 30Q. Stats wise, it will differ because I don't know who makes this, and I presume it's not Samsung. And then they get the usual safety stuff on there, so don't smash it around and things like that. But pretty good, you know, machine-wise, fine. It's in line with the SP40. Really like it. It's light and thin. That's what I like. So it's not excessive in material. And we'll have a quick look at this. There's your spring there, and it's a pretty decent spring. It's not super beefy, but it doesn't need to be, because you're only ever going to be using 18650s. It doesn't have to also allow for much heavier batteries and have double springs and things like this. It's a straightforward 18650 with onboard charging. And it is now they're giving you a button top there, but I have tried with other cells and I haven't had any problems, because if you see down the bottom there, in fact, let's use a light, seeing as this is a channel for lights. There you go. So as you can see down the bottom there, you have a spring. So it's pretty irrelevant whether you use a flat top or a button top, but it all works because you've got a central piece of metal over the top there. So that works. So we'll get that on. This is using Anduril, but I'm going to discuss that on the UI section, because I know people lose their minds and say, oh, I'm going to have to go into mental care after this. Your review's far too long. So I will do that in the UI section. So like I say, stats wise, I mean, it comes with IPX8, they're claiming. That may be true. So according to them, you can put this in up to 2 meters of water, pushing down, trying to get in, and for 2 hours this should survive. I've been out in the rain, but it wasn't massively heavy, and some snow, and I didn't have any issues. Although, like I say, that was screwed, so was that, and that was seated correctly. But I did have wet hands and gloves and things like that. Okay, so this also comes with a 1 meter drop rating. I would have preferred to have seen 1.5 to 2, but you know, that's about commensurate with a lot of the other Sofirn lights. So if you're 1 meter above concrete and bush, you drop it. This unit should survive. The cell may get damaged, because that is possible. If you hit it at the right angle, it can damage cells and things like that. But it's been pretty good. It has memory mode, so it remembers what the last mode you had was on, and it's got a thermal step down. I have tested this on turbo, and as soon as it hits 40, it's a very gradual ramp down to a more sensible level where it can contain that temperature and stop thermal runaway. Because obviously, you know, these cells can't get too hot, and all of this can only take so much. So on turbo, it's just one of the aspects of current LEDs. At that output, it's going to produce a lot of heat, and it's going to step down. And I'm sure, as you can agree, that this heat sink, this section, it works, but they're not massive heat sinks. But you know, you cannot have huge finned, you know, like a sea urchin made out of metal, because then it wouldn't be comfortable to use. So they have to draw a line between functionality and looks and things like that. Okay, so what I want to do is we'll try some of the charging. So because there's something I want to point out now. Type C, so I'm a big fan of that. So we'll get this open. There's your charging port there. So it's a Type C, so it doesn't matter which way up you do it. So if you bear with us a few seconds, let's get my box there. There you go. There's my trusty X-Star. So we'll use that. So you put your Type A in, and then you will charge by putting the Type C. Doesn't matter which way up it goes. Stick that in, and if you watch the button, red means charging. So let's look at some figures here. Okay, so red's charging, and then green when it's finished. So ignore this figure here. So it's currently charging. Now it's charging pretty fast. And the last few lights I was looking at was almost trickle charging, but around 5 volts, and it's hitting 1.4 of an amp there. So that's pretty good, pretty fast, especially for an 18650. But I've not had any major problems. I've charged with this, and it hasn't gone mega hot or anything like that, so I haven't had any issues. So it does charge relatively fast, which is a nice thing. You know, that's a good thing these days. Now here's the problem though. So we'll unplug that. So if I find, there's one. So let's try This is an old cable, but it doesn't matter. It's a Type C to Type C. So both are Type C. So you're probably thinking, well, how does it know what's happening? Well, there has to be a level of negotiation. Although these are dumb devices, you know, they haven't got huge CPUs in them. There has to be a level of negotiation goes on between the provider of the energy and the thing that's taking it. So if we plug this in, let's see what happens. Is that charging? No, it isn't. You see how this has gone off? It's not charging. It will not accept what we call power delivery. Now, power delivery is where there's a bit of negotiation goes on and power is supplied over a Type C to Type C. Now, that's becoming more popular. I mean, about 6 months ago, I did a questionnaire on the channel, and most people said, I've never heard of power delivery, who cares? And I think it was only something like 5% cared. But over time, that 5% is going to get bigger, and more people are going to care about this because it's going to become more commonplace to have this. I've already got this on the back of the PC over there. I've got it on the laptop. I've got it on the mobile phone. I use power delivery to charge. I did with the last phone I had for 2 years. In the car, I've got power delivery Type C through an Anchor device. So it's going to become more of an issue. So if you're buying this thing, and this is future-proof, that's me for the next 10 years, not necessarily. So that's just one thing I wanted to point out. It's not power delivery compatible, which is a shame. But it's not a deal killer because you've got this, and there's millions of USB devices around and adapters. So for 5% of people, it's going to be a pain in the butt. For everyone else, they probably don't care. But there you go. I just thought I'd mention it. Okay. So what I want to do is I want to mention some pros and cons, and then I'm going to go through the UI because people get annoyed, and I'll put a little timer thing up here so people can skip it if they want. So let's talk about the pros. First off, it works whilst charging. Now that's something I look for in headlamps, especially if I'm camping. There's nothing worse than you've got to take your headlamp off, sit in the dark whilst it's charging. It's absolutely ridiculous. Unless you've got spare batteries, of course, but you can plug this in, charge it whilst running it on a low level, so it's not, you know, defeating the whole purpose of charging it up. And you can still use it. So that's a decent feature. Not all lights come with that. It's Type C, but like I say, unfortunately not power delivery. So 5 to 10% of the people watching this will probably get annoyed by that, which is fair enough. I get annoyed by it. It's pretty slimline, but that goes with a lot of the Sofirns. It's not overdone with the metal, but it's enough. It's been solid. I've whacked this around in pockets. Like I say, I was whacking it off a Firefly purposefully. I dropped it only once, but because I dropped it in the dark, I have no idea which part hit the floor first, so I don't know. I can't find it, so I presume it bounced. I don't know, but it did hit some gravel, but I can't find the dint mark. So this paint's either highly resilient or it hit a specific... Did it hit that? Is the paint coming off there? I'm not sure. Maybe it hit that and then dropped. I don't know. But it's done pretty good. So I've carried this more than 2 weeks in chest pockets and jeans pockets and against metal and keys and things like that. So it's done pretty good. Low price. The price on this for a decent, good UI, you know, fully featured UI with this output and USB charging or Type C, even though it's not power delivery, is pretty decent. Excellent price. So well done so far for keeping the prices down whilst giving you a great functional light. It's Anduril, which is now, I like Anduril. It's super feature rich. It's got loads of features. But again, if you're buying this as a present for someone who isn't a flashaholic, that could actually be a negative because they might go, oh, I don't understand what's going on, help. So that could be good or bad, but I'm going to mark that as a good because it's fully featured and it's extremely sort of interesting because you've got so much control. I prefer that. I like the button. It's got a texture to it, so when you're trying to find it in the dark, you definitely know straight away that isn't the button, even though it's rubber. That is, and it's got a flattened out section. They've done a decent job there, although I maybe would have liked to have seen it a bit more recessed, but not the end of the world. And you can tail stand it. You see it's flat. So you can tail stand and steal and bounce and things like that. Now, cons. Clip's not deep carry, but it's not the end of the world. It's not as sturdy as some people may like. As you can see, it's okay, does the job. Not power delivery, as we've discussed, but the percentage of people that affects, I will be honest, is low. But there are people who, especially vocal people, who won't like that. Now, I want to talk about throw on this. So this has the sst40 LED, which is supposed to give extra throw in comparison to things like the Cree LEDs. Now, that's great, but I didn't notice particularly massive throw on this light. But I think the reason for that is the design. So we'll put this to one side. I just want to make a quick discussion here. So on something like a thrower, you have like a deep bowl, which acts like a reflector, so you can focus a hot spot and fire that out a long distance, okay? So we'll show you that. So you have this, you've got this spill here, obviously, but this hot spot is the bit that goes whoosh and fires, you know, like a laser beam. Although it's not like the LEP lights. I understand that, you know, and it's certainly not laser. It is diffusing out slightly, but it's trying to focus this light to get distance. So as I pull this back, you've got this irritating thing here which obscures detail up close, yes, but you're trying to go for distance. So you get as large a bowl as possible with a nice deep set to it, okay? Same with, I've got the GT Mini here, exactly the same idea here. The throwers, they're going for throw, nice wide bowl there and deep. Now here's the problem. On this one, it's a smooth reflector, just like those. It's smooth, it's trying to, rather than diffuse the light, it's smooth, it's trying to whoosh, focus it. But look, here's the slight issue here. As this is a thrower, look at the size of that. You know, if you've got this in your pocket, yes, it is a little bit large, but that is going to give you a lot of distance. This isn't. The diameter isn't enough for a thrower, really. And look at the depth. It's minuscule. So there's not a lot going on in regards to being able to focus much. And in regards to the beam, I'll show you. If we turn this on, you get these artifacts here. So ignore everything apart from in the middle. There's your spot, which is great, and that's firing out. And I was able to, I tested this across rivers and things, and I did notice it, for this design, yes, it does throw pretty good, but you're not going to get anywhere near what you get with a, you know, something made as a thrower. But you're also getting these artifacts. You see how you've got your spot there and your spill, but then what's all this? You've got like the rings of Saturn here, accompanying it, everything. See them? See here? From here to here? I found that a little bit irritating when I was using the light. It's less noticeable outdoors, and especially if you're going out walking or something like that, because obviously the light's way back, way back. These are in the periphery of your vision, and when they're against a natural background like leaves and grass and things like that, you can't see these details. But in an urban environment, I noticed this extra ring. Now, I don't know what's causing that. I don't know whether it's the design of the bezel, but it doesn't seem to be, or there's some sort of reflection going on from, if we zoom in there, you see how you've got the LED. I don't know whether it's like a reflective surface on the inner sort of circular section. I don't know what's causing it, but it's a little bit irritating and unnecessary, because it's of no use, let's be honest. So we'll zoom out of there again. So like I say, you get these rings of Saturn, which I found a little bit irritating, but are most people going to care about that? Probably not. You're still getting a traditional throwy type beam profile with a hot spot, and this LED is going to allow you to throw quite a distance, regardless of the design of the head here. But if you're buying this expecting, right, I'm going to use this to, you know, go right across the airfield and find a pigeon, you're probably not. You really need to go for a dedicated thrower. But to be fair, obviously this is massive. Look, that's an irritant in the pocket. That isn't. So it's all about give and take, isn't it? But I think for the design, they've done decent. I would have preferred maybe to seen, I don't know how they would do it, maybe slightly increase the width of this and get a bit more depth, so you can get a little bit more of a reflective bowl. I don't know. Maybe someone who knows more about these things in the comment section could provide something down below. Okay, so I feel like I'm being negative there, but I just wanted to point that out, because the beam profile is what you as the user see every day, and if you go, oh, I'm sick of these, then that becomes an issue. Most people may not care. Okay, so apart from that, like I say, you're not going to get the same as a dedicated thrower, but that's part of the design. There's no tint options. You get this tint and nothing. And in regards to that, you'll notice if I put this on its lowest setting, it's very green. It's hard to see on camera, but believe me, that's very green, especially on its lowest settings. There, look at that. It's very green, and I've been told that that's an artifact of this emitter. But then watch, as you increase it, there, it's starting to go, that's it, gone, pretty much. There, it's starting to head towards, you know, like a cool white. So yes, there's no tint options, and on this emitter you're going to get slight green on the lowest settings, but unless you use low settings all the time, a lot of people don't, it's not going to be an issue. Okay, so like I say, beam rings, not a fan of, tiny bit of green, no tint options, not as good as a dedicated thrower, but it won't be, not power delivery, the clip's a bit weak, but there's so much to like about this. Tail stand, you know, I like the button. I love Anduril. It's very low price for what you're getting. I love it. It's slimline, Type-C, built-in charging, works whilst charging. So I do like this light. I just think that if they could change this beam profile slightly and maybe get a little bit more oomph, I would have preferred it more, but I love it. But what I want to do is, before I look at any other lights, I want to discuss the UI. So I'll try and do this UI as rapidly as possible, because I know some people lose their minds and go, oh no, it's the end of the world, your review's too long. Use the fast forward button. But for people who can't be bothered, just hit the fast forward button. I'm going to put a timeline up here. So the start will be here and the end will be here somewhere. And you can skip straight to past me waffling about UI. But some people need to know this because they don't know anything about Anduril and they don't know anything about this light. So for those people, we shall begin. Okay, so let's talk about UI. I'll try and do this as rapidly as possible. So click on, I'll turn that up a little bit just so you can see. So one click on and then one click off. Dead simple, just like a normal flashlight. Okay, so pretty simple. Now when it is on, you can ramp it up and down. So click and hold and it ramps up to its maximum ceiling level. Click and hold and it'll go down to its lowest level. So you can hardly see it there. So there you go. Now in regards to that ramping, you can make changes. So when this is on, if you triple click, 1, 2, 3, see there was a little bit of a flicker there. Now this will go from smooth ramping to like a stuttered ramping. So watch, I'll show you this, it's stepped. So can you see it flashing as it changes levels? So lowest, watch. See, ramp, 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 ramp. You can see there was a visual indication of each ramp level. And then 1, 2, 3 takes you back to smooth ramping, so that there's no visual perception of the ramp level changing there. It's a smooth up and it's a smooth down, so back to normal again. Okay, so 2 clicks will take you to turbo, but bear in mind, if you do that from off, it's just maximum ceiling. You have to have the light on like that, then double click, right, that's turbo, so that's 2000 lumens, very bright. I can feel the heat coming from that, although I have to be quite close because it's only 2000 lumens. It's not ridiculous levels like some of the other lights. Heat levels okay with this. Once this hits about 40, it'll start going down because of the thermal protection, so we'll turn that off. So they're your basic things, and then 3 clicks you have a battery check. So I'll show you that now. So 1, 2, 3, and it's going to flash out the capacity of the battery, but not as a percentage, it's going to do it as a voltage. So 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 3.9 volts. So, you know, if you're not in the know, it should be around 4.2 on a full charge, and it'll go down considerably from there, especially on turbo. So I like that. I would have preferred to have seen maybe as a subsetting where you can change that to a percentage of the battery or something like that, but maybe that's going to come with Anduril version 2, because I know the Toy Keeper is working on that. So handy feature. Now we're in the battery check mode. You've got sub modes. So if we double click, right, we're now on sunset mode. So you're probably thinking, well, nothing's happened. It looks exactly the same as normal. Well, it doesn't. Whatever level this is at, it will ramp down over an hour and go off. So I don't know if that's for people who are romantic or scared of skeletons at night. I don't know. But you've got that there. And then if you go to the next the next mode, double click. Right, that's beacon mode. So you get nothing and then a flash, you see. So flash, flash. Handy for rally points or SOS situations or military maneuvers and things like that. You couldn't really use that on a bike because it's not giving you enough light, but it's certainly good for positioning purposes for all those people in the military. Okay, so you've also got another mode, so double click to go to it, and then it'll flash out the temperature internally, not externally, obviously. So let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So 43 degrees. Now I haven't calibrated this, but I will do. I generally calibrate them after I've done all my reviews and things, because it takes a lot of messing about, but it's a handy feature to have if you really want it. And then we'll go back to normal again. So those were your 3 clicks is battery level, and then you've got your sub levels. Okay, so 4 clicks is lockout or e-lockout. So in other words, it'll prevent this from functioning in your pocket, which saves you from getting a red hot leg and things like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That will no longer work. However, under Anduril, it does work slightly. So I'll show you. So you see that? You get a lower level, and then you also get a double click lower level, which is a little bit more. So you're probably thinking, what's the point of that? Well, if you've locked this and you take it out and you just want to quickly do something like read a map or not give away your position or whatever, you can quickly get some light, or double click gives you a little bit more light, and then it goes straight back in your pocket. You haven't had to 1, 2, 3, 4, right, let's have a little bit of light, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, back in the pocket. You literally just press it or double press it. I like that feature. I think that's a sensibly designed e-lockout. So if you want to take that off again, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you're back to unlocked and it will work normal again. Okay, so 5 clicks will give you momentary mode. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now what happens is it's either on or it's off, and that's it. So when you press the button, it's on, but you see as soon as I let go, that's it. So it's more like a tactical mode, although generally for tactical stuff I prefer something like a tail clicker, but that is there. I can't imagine holding it like this in a tactical situation, but on or off, that's it. There's no other modes, and you're not going to get surprised by anything. You know it's either going to be on or off, that's it. Now the problem is, in order to get rid of that, you need to unscrew, in other words, disengage the circuit. So we'll do that now. There, circuit disengaged, no juice going through. And it should be back to default. It is. There you go, on and off. Okay. So that was your 5 clicks. So 6 clicks is Muggle mode. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there was a little bit of a flash there. Now it's Muggle mode. So what Muggle mode does is it knocks a bit off the highest settings, and it knocks a bit off the lowest settings, but it still functions relatively similar to normal settings. So for example, you turn it on and you can turn it off. And when it's on, you can ramp it up, but not all the way up, and you can ramp it down, but not all the way down. So it's taken off the ceiling and it's taken off the bottom there, but it still works similar to full functionality. Now, it's called Muggle mode because Muggles are non-magic users in Harry Potter universe. In other words, if you were to hand this to a non-flashaholic, you're probably better off putting it in Muggle mode so that they can play with the ramping and all that, but they're not going to burn themselves on mega high modes, and they're not going to go, oh no, I pressed 52 times, then 6, and I'm in subsetting 962, it's flashing, what am I doing? They don't really want to be hearing about things like that. We love that sort of thing as a flashaholic. They don't. So that's what Muggle mode's for. So if you want to get rid of that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right, it's off. So now back to normal, and we'll just check. Yeah, it ramps all the way up much brighter, and it should ramp super low. There, right down to where you can see it goes a little bit green. Brilliant. Okay. Now there are 7 clicks as well. Now 7 clicks are to do with auxiliary LEDs. Now there are no auxiliary LEDs on here, but you can change the auxiliary LEDs under the button. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, so when this is off, the button does nothing. Okay, there's nothing happening. So let's try the first mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right, now we've got a weak auxiliary illumination there. Let's get this off here so you can see. So you see how you have a very low level of green light there. Okay, so they're on all the time. Your next mode, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If I've got that right, did I get that right? I don't know if I've got that right actually. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you bear with me a few seconds, I think I've actually pressed that the wrong amount of times, so we'll try that again. So back on, there you go. So we've got nothing at the moment, so, and then it's working. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Should be low level, but I'm unable to see anything here. So we'll try that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I might have put this into Muggle mode. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it was. Right, that was me. I did 6 instead of 7, which put me in Muggle mode, which shows you that it prevents you from mucking around with all these settings that I'm showing you now. Okay, so now we're back in normal mode, so just be aware of that. So we're back to this low level here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now you have a high mode. So remember, we had nothing on the button, then we had very low. Now we have very high. Now there's another mode which will flash. It's like a breathing mode. So we'll try that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There, you see how it's almost like a breathing. So it raises in intensity. In fact, it's a dual mode. So light, low, light, low. I quite like that mode, so I'm going to stick with that. Although obviously for the lowest parasitic drain, you either want those turned off or at the very lowest setting. I would probably recommend the lowest setting, especially on this cell. Okay, so that's your 7 clicks. Now you're probably thinking, right, that has to be everything. There can't be any more settings in Anduril. Well, there are a few more, but we're nearly finished. Okay, so you've got click, click, hold mode. So if we go click, click, hold, Right, that there should be candle mode. Now, can you see how it's like a spluttering flame? It's changing in intensity randomly, up and down, like a candle would. And now you can change the intensity of that. You can ramp it up, or you can ramp it down like a smaller candle. See, you can hardly see that, and then ramp it up. So if you want a large church candle or a birthday cake candle, so that's your first mode. Okay. Now your next mode. So we'll try it again. So. I had to double click to advance to the next one, so double click. Now that one there should be bike mode. So bike mode is you've got a beam, but then within that you've got like an irritating flash and a flicker. That's on purpose. It's to give away your position to traffic and things like that, to keep you safe. It's to make sure people know of your presence. So that's a nice feature. It doesn't come with a handlebar connector here, but you can buy them pretty cheap on eBay, and you can just have it like that. Although I probably wouldn't go for the thrower type on a bike. I would prefer something like a TIR or an orange peel, but you've got that if you want it. It's part of Anduril UI. So the next mode, and I'm going to cover this slightly, so double click. So that I'll cover that a little bit because I don't want to irritate people, but that is your strobe. Okay, it's not a tactical strobe, but it's like a party strobe, I think they call that. So within that you can change the frequency, so it's flashing at a certain rate at the minute. Now if I click and hold, see how it's gone very fast. That's very, very fast. You can hardly see it on camera. Now if I click and hold and let it go down, it gets slower. There you go, slower, very slow now. There, very slow. So you can change that level or frequency of flash in that party mode, and it mimics the flash on the button, just to show you as well. The next mode, double click, is a tactical strobe. Now the difference is it's much brighter. It's going for maximum brightness. Now I'm covering that just so it doesn't irritate people, but it is very bright. So it's using maximum brightness, and again you can change the frequency of that. So if I click and hold, it'll get faster. So that's very fast there. And then if I click and hold, lower, slower, very slow strobe there, you can see. So you do have that granular control over the frequency. And then we'll turn that off. Now I think there's one more mode, lightning. So yeah, so we'll go to lightning. Now lightning is supposed to mimic a lightning flash anyway, the light from a thunderstorm. So you've got nothing, and then you have a large boost of power, and then off. So I can't imagine when I would ever use that, unless I was maybe doing a seance or visiting Salem or something like that. But you've got that if you want it, so turn that off. So that is the end of the UI section, and I'm going to show you a few more lights and then we'll get out. So you'll be pleased to hear that's no more UI chat. Okay, so like I say, there was a few more lights I tested this against. I tested this against a old Thorfire. Looks pretty similar. Obviously doesn't, it's a lot bigger, heavier, and it doesn't have onboard charging, but it uses an orange peel reflector, so you get a totally different beam. So I'll just quickly show you that. So if we turn this on, turn it up a little bit, you see the difference. The hot spot there obscures it pretty. I mean, this is turned up higher, so hang on, I need to, if I can get this, there you go. Okay, so this the hot spot on this one is a little bit more diffuse, isn't it? Look, whereas on there it's more prominent, but you're going to get a little bit more through out of this one, and obviously the power on this is less. But I just wanted to test it against an old light, which I did, and I still think this does pretty good. I tested it against some dedicated throwers, because I know people would ask, so I tested it against two of the popular ones, which is the Lumentop GT, this is the mini, not that massive ridiculous one that looks like a bazooka, and the C8 Plus by Convoy. So I tested both of those. I quite like the tint on that one, I'll be honest. Same with that one, but obviously these will throw further. But look, do you have the real estate in your pocket to take that capacity? Most people would say no, and yeah, I can't charge this, so which is a fair enough point. I also tested against a hiking light from OD Pro. This is the Hex 62. I tested it against a similar sort of design, but can you see how they've got a nice deep bowl? I found this through a little bit better. This is the Zanflare F1, and their charging is behind. I'll show you if I can do this. There you go. It's behind a waterproof section. Yes, it's the old micro USB, but you see how it's got two O-rings there, so when you put that up and over, it sort of seals that off, which is quite nice. You haven't got the daft flaps or anything like that. That's a tail clicker, that one, but that's quite a decent light. I like the tint on that one. And I also tested against the trusty old S2. This is the S2 Plus by Convoy. Never had any bother with this, it's great. I should try and get one of the new ones with the different LEDs, but this is just using the old LED, but it's got quite a nice tint, and it's nice to see against the old stuff. And I also tested it against the U18, which is the rechargeable on the road, but that has an orange peel reflector, as you can see. But it does have onboard charging, even though it's the old type. It was quite interestingly, I wanted to test it against the Lumentop Tool AA V2. This is the V2. They made some slight changes to it. Because if you look, they've got a very similar design process in the head. It's a smooth reflector, which gives you a bit of throw, but it's rather shallow and not particularly wide. So it was quite interesting to see them side by side. I think this does exceptionally for such a small light. It does a really, really good job. And there's them together there. Obviously, this is a lot brighter, but you know that's to be expected from the LED on this. But I still think this does a remarkable job. So like I say, I'm pretty impressed with this. So I've gone over the positives, I've gone over the negatives, I've shown you some other lights I'm going to look at, and I've discussed the UI. So in order to try and keep this review under 60 hours, I'm going to give you a quick opinion, and then we'll go outside and I'll show you some beam shots. And when I was exercising, I was able to also film, because I couldn't go out specifically for the purpose of filming at any point due to lockdown rules. But as I was exercising in the dark alone, I needed a flashlight, so I was able to use my phone to film that, which is fine. So I need to give this a mark out of 10, don't I? Right, so let's think about this. Right, works well charging, Type-C, slimline, low price, angular, which I love. I like the button, tail stands. The clip's fine. I would have preferred to have seen deep carry, not power delivery. It doesn't throw as well as some of the others, but I don't think that's the point. No tint options, and you get a little bit of green at the low levels, but who's going to complain too much about that, because you're getting a little bit extra throw because of that, and it's using the SST40. You get the battery, sorry, I'm saying battery, you get the cell, which comes as part of the pack, which is great. Thermal step down sensible, but that can't be altered. It's got memory mode and high IPX rating according to them. Not a lot to dislike about this, really. I'm going to give this, let's have a think. The one thing that annoyed me was these rings. But is everyone going to be, vomiting into their cornflakes whilst watching this, saying, "Oh my God, it's the end of the world"? Probably not. But I do like to point these things out. So what I'll say is, I'm going to give this. Let's have a think. For what it does, and for the price, I'm going to have to give this 8.5. I have to. I would have given it a 9 if it didn't have if it could somehow get rid of the green, but I think that's just part of the LED emitter. Add power delivery, and maybe do something about those rings, although again that's not the end of the world, and I'm being very, very picky here, but I have to be. 8.5. That's my honest opinion. I liked it. I'm probably going to buy one of these as a gift for someone. I'll keep this. I might add it to the car, because I've got a few of the other Sofirns. I've got a few of these. I've got one of these in the car, and this is the one I have in the house, which I've used quite a lot. So I might get another one of these. I'll keep this in the house, and I'll get another one and keep it in the trunk of the car there for emergencies. So I've got a headlamp for changing tires and things like that, but I've got this if I need to walk a distance. So I might do that. Because it's very capable, and you can use it whilst charging. So if you're in an emergency situation, great, and it's got that angular, so love it. And you've got a little bit of push out if you need it. So I might do that. So 8.5, I think they've done a brilliant job. Well done, Sofirn. As usual, you've made me smile, which is what you did with the SP40 when I thought I wasn't going to like it, and I did. I loved it. So well done, and well done for choosing to put angular in. I think you've done a good job there. Cheers. So enough of me waffling. Let's get out. I'll show you some beam shots. And I went outdoors for my exercise, and I've tried to get as many beam shots as possible. So right, I'm off. Bye-bye.